Hello and welcome. This is Dr. Allison. Today we are talking about blame and how you blame yourself, how you blame others. And it's been a really interesting conversation that I've been having with my patients and the women who are joining the Soul Elements Collective as we really talk about how our spirituality and our emotions affect our health directly. And usually when we talk about blame, or you look in self-help sections of books, it's always about how you're blaming other people for your problems and where are you placing that blame and how it's affecting you and how you need to take personal responsibility. But really I find for women who are empathic, and men as well, who are highly sensitive, who are chronically ill, is that they're really always placing the blame on themselves. And it really keeps them extremely anxious, very sick all of the time. It depletes their energy and their power to be able to do things. They beat themselves up. They lose confidence because they take on the weight of the world irresponsibly because it's not always their fault. It's not something that's always in their control. And the key to all of this, which we'll talk in a little bit about, is learning to forgive yourself. Forgiveness through the heart and to release the need to blame. And so I hear things like, if I had only known, I would have done things differently. Everything's my fault. When I have consultations with people, they're constantly replaying the same story over and over and over again. And I'm like, hey, we've been talking for a year, 2 years, and they're working, which is so important, with counselors, with their therapists, or with their spiritual advisors, which is wonderful. But they're not seeing how hanging on to these same stories and blaming themselves just continues that cycle. It perpetuates it, and they never are able to break free. And so it really translates a lot of time to anger. So liver issues, the liver holds anger, and sometimes women can't release that pain from their liver, or they're always having gallbladder issues. Punishing yourself. A lot of people punish themselves like, oh, I wish I weighed less, which is the most common one, or I wish I was a bit different body size. So they end up punishing themselves, blaming themselves. I'm so fat, I need to punish myself. It's all my fault, so I'm going to stop eating, or I'm going to exercise more, or they're just going to live inside their heads and really just blame themselves and keep themselves down. They lose their confidence, and it's really hard because they start feeling like a victim instead of taking control and responsibility back. And all of this comes back to blaming yourself is a method of control, because if it's your fault, you can fix it. And if it's not your fault, then you really can't fix it. And so when you take that blame and you take that personal responsibility, you take that energy to try and manipulate it, to control it, to make things different. When things are outside of your control, that's when things are difficult, right? We don't want to be out of control. We want to be able to correct our bodies, live our best life, help our children, and we can't do that all the time. We have to release control. And so this becomes a very personal, emotional challenge. And so Carolyn Miss says, physical healing often requires and may demand emotional healing, in her Anatomy of the Spirit book. And I love this one. It's so inspirational. And I really latch onto that for myself, as you know, because I'm going through personal health challenges, and it just happens so fast. And I know that at the bottom of this is emotional issues, spiritual issues, and that's what I'm coming back into myself. So that challenge, that emotional challenge for you, comes to accept the blame when it's appropriate, when it's the right time and space and place for you to accept that blame. Because otherwise, you have to let it go. You can't always take responsibility, right? You have to forgive yourself. Isn't that a challenge? To say, okay, maybe you did make a mistake. Maybe you are to blame. Maybe this is something that was in your control and you might have messed up a little bit. Can you forgive yourself? Can you release that control when it's not your fault? Can you? Can you release control over not only yourself, but your spouse or your kids or where you work, and just really be able to step back and become neutral in that position and say, okay, so this isn't about me. This isn't something I can fix. I'm just going to pull myself out of this situation, maybe energetically, maybe through your voice where you just stop talking because you're like, this is not for me to fix. Maybe physically where you put up boundaries and you leave people to do their own thing. Like, okay, I'm not going to go over their house anymore, or I'm not going to answer the phone. They can text me, or something where you put up a boundary is really important as well. And really, the other part of this is that we have to stop looking for validation that we're good or that we're bad, right? So a lot of women will ask me during their consultations, like, well, what do you think? Did I do this right? Am I doing the right thing? Am I good? Am I bad? Am I, and when we tell these stories that are self-depreciating, which I am completely guilty of, you can ask my husband, accept a compliment. I can't do that. So we're always looking for that validation that we're good enough, right? Because probably if you're blaming yourself for everything, you might not have gotten that love or that validation as a child or growing up, saying that, maybe you felt everything was your fault, or you wanted to fix everything in your parents' world, so you took on that blame. And then we're constantly looking for, well, am I a good person? I don't know. Am I a good person? I don't know. Am I lovable? Am I acceptable the way I am? I don't know. So really you have to find that in yourself. And this all keeps us very, very sick when we don't have the ability to let go of control, when we don't have the ability to say, okay, I can't fix this. This isn't my fault. What are we going to do about this from a neutral place? Because you don't feel worthy of love. You don't feel worthy of even healing. And sometimes that looks like not taking care of yourself because, oh, I'm not good. I don't feel good. I don't know. I'm not even worth the money to spend on supplements or worth the money to spend on getting help, or I'm just going to take time off from taking my supplements because I don't know. And we really just don't even love ourselves enough to eat food consistently. Like, oh, I should make myself breakfast, but I shouldn't because, and then XYZ, right? Whatever you put in there, because we're blaming ourselves or victimizing ourselves instead of taking that power back and saying, no, I'm the only one who can fix me. So I'm going to take my power back when we're sick. And this blame and creates this fear that keeps us in constant fight or flight, right? Because we're constantly trying to control everything. We're constantly looking for ways to be like, okay, what can I fix now? Okay, what do I have to change now? Okay, this is my fault. Oh, the house is dirty. It's all my fault. Or the house is dirty because the kids are crazy and it's all my fault because I don't have good control of my kids. Is that true? It's not true, right? Houses get dirty. Kitchens get used. So we just have to become really, really neutral, but that keeps our subconscious searching for what's wrong, what can I fix, what's next. And then really, because of the law of attraction, we keep creating scenarios that keep attracting this, something's wrong, I'm messing things up, I'm doing things wrong. And we hit this cycle and we prove to ourselves that there's always something wrong. And we become addicted to this feeling of needing to blame ourselves, needing to take that personal responsibility, allowing our body to create that depression, anxiety, because our cells become addicted to it. So the more we have those emotions, the more receptors our cells create. And then the hungrier our cells get, like, hey, where's all those chemicals that we need to feel bad about ourselves? So we keep searching for ways, and it keeps us sick. And when we have to break that habit, it really is almost feeling like you're suffocating, right? Or you're missing something, when really you're just losing that need for control. You're just losing that emotion. You're losing that paradigm shift. And that's huge. And it's scary. And sometimes we talk about it as a habit. I like to think of it like a virus because it's easier to manage when we have these thoughts of blaming ourselves and feeling like a victim. How do we break that habit? Most people don't want to break habits because we're addicted to them. So if you look at it like a virus and that it's implanted in you and you need to really attack it and go after it, if you had a virus or a flu, you wouldn't be like, oh no, poor me, I'll just sit here and wait it out. No, you'd go do something about it. So this is your ability to look at these emotional states, these beliefs, these paradigms as a virus and go at them like that. And the antidote, if you will, is forgiveness, compassion, kindness, looking at yourself like you look at your children, right? If my daughter says things negative about herself, I'm like, oh my gosh, don't ever say that. You're beautiful, you're smart, you're amazing, you're talented, you're strong, right? We just go down those lists. So you need to talk to yourself like you would your best friend or your child or someone that you just deeply, deeply love and would never want to hear them say something negative about themselves. And every time you feed that to yourself, that is your antidote to shifting your mindset, because we have to have that acceptance of our body, of our life, of our circumstances, of our ability to control, and accept that challenge to be able to move forward and be able to not only heal our emotional state, but heal our physical state as well, because we don't need to be replaying these stories over and over again if you're not focused also on healing that process, setting those boundaries, and moving forward. We want to feel better. And if you don't want to feel better and you notice that, wow, I really keep myself in the same place, that's great, because now you see it and now you feel it and now you can do something about it. So if you have that thought like, ooh, maybe I don't want to get better, maybe I'm really happy telling everybody this horrible story and I'm not interested in healing, well, why aren't you interested in healing? And take your time, examine it. It doesn't mean that you have the next day wake up and heal yourself. It means you start talking to somebody about these feelings and why you're addicted or attached or living in the scenarios rather than moving forward and healing. So thank you for tuning in. I'll put information if you would like more on the Soul Elements Collective. It's a spiritual community that focuses on empowering women through life, health, meditations, everything. We're going to cover it all. The first meditation drop is coming October 1st. I'm really excited about that. And I'm here to support you with your health, your emotions, your life. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.